Hi, this is Katie Burns, and you are watching Live Well. Normally, I come to you as a licensed mental health professional talking about different needs in the community and celebrating different causes. And today, I'm proud to come to you with my role in agriculture as our family farms cattle with Burns Farms. And today, I'm here at Edgefield Prime to talk with Joe and Dr. Loveday. So, Joe, introduce yourself and your role here at Edgefield Prime.
All right, my name is Joe Riddle, and I am one of the owners here at Edgefield Prime Meat Company. I manage the day-to-day operation.
And you are also a cattle farmer?
We are, yes.
Okay.
We farm in Morgan County for the most part. That's where our cattle farm is at. We were supplying meats to restaurants, needed a facility. This place came up for sale, and that's how we got here.
Well, we're so glad to have you here in the community, and we're going to talk a little bit today about the improvements that he's making here. And with that, let me go ahead and introduce you to Dr. Loveday. He's here from the University of Tennessee. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming to Dunlap, Tennessee.
It's beautiful in the valley.
Tell us a little bit about your job.
I'm the extension meat specialist at the University of Tennessee. And Joe asked me to come down. We've been discussing meat cutting and new cuts and some of the trends that's happening, particularly in the meat industry, beef, pork, and lamb cutting.
Okay. And before I arrived here today, Bobby Collier provided one of his sheep, correct, for practice and consumption, because I'm going to take some home with me.
Right.
Okay. So tell a little bit about what you were hoping to gain from today and Dr. Loveday being here.
Okay. You know, with any industry, there's always changes in industry. There's new cuts that comes available. And we asked Dr. Loveday to come down to show us some new methods, hopefully improve on what we're offering for the customer. So that's the sole reason for him being here today.
For the farmer and the customer.
Correct.
Because they can come, you guys can come here and purchase some of this lamb that was processed today.
Right.
And also, Bobby was here and he was learning about his carcass.
Correct.
And what did you think about the process, Dr. Loveday?
Well, it's a nice plant. They're doing a great job in terms of processing, whether it be custom product or product for the retail market, food service market, and just learning a little bit about their operations. You know, in business, the customer's always right, so you got to cut and meet those demands, and that's what we're trying to do today, is stay ahead of the curve.
What are some important things that the customers are looking for today?
I still think convenience is still a big issue, particularly with meat. The time it takes to prepare, plan ahead. We visited a little bit about, you got frozen cuts, thawing them out, or you cook from a frozen state. That's quite an acceptable way of preparing meat also. But portion size has become very important. Now, only a very popular issue right now is food wastage. You've probably seen that in the news and such. So being able to get the right portion sizes, it's more efficient for both the processor, the consumer. It's something they can prepare more easily, and most likely will fit their budget a lot better too. And
you mentioned earlier that there's a heavier weight now as opposed to what we've been used to.
Particularly on the cattle side, when we look at cattle in our commercial trade, the box beef industry, the carcass weights on those cattle have gone up over 800 pounds. Larger cattle means usually larger cuts. Larger cuts means bigger portions. Or you have to do some of this alternative cutting styles in order to merchandise those cuts in a manner that would be more appealing to the customer.
To have less waste. Have all of the cow used. And that also goes into an important question that you get a lot, Joe, is when a customer brings in an animal, they expect a certain percentage back, and that's not always the case.
Correct, and hopefully Dr. Loveday can touch on this a little bit. We consistently are questioned on the amount of meat that animal will produce. Each animal's different. Dr. Loveday can hopefully answer a few of those questions.
Well, that's no doubt. That's number one question I get, is that I had a beef slaughtered for personal use, custom, what we call custom slaughter. I didn't get all my meat back, and they stole my meat. You probably never heard that, right, Joe? But
and they call you on the phone and say,
yeah, they complain.
Okay.
And I try to tell them, you know, these folks have no desire for their meat, and so these animals, you start off with a live weight, and they will only yield so much. And so when you look at that live animal, and once it's processed and dressed and hung in the cooler, what we call carcass weight, depending on the kind of cattle, they'll only yield anywhere from 55 to 65% of that live weight. And so you've lost half of it in hides, internal organs, hooves,
the stomach.
folks. Oh yeah, the internal organs. Folks don't realize how heavy a beef head is, and that's all weight that doesn't show up into a package.
Right.
Then once that cattle has been cut into retail cuts, there's other losses, particularly how fat the animal is. That's probably our biggest difference, is the amount of fat that has to be trimmed.
Okay.
More fat is trimmed and thrown away.
Right.
Then there's less meat in the package. That lowers your percentage. But cutting style, bone-in roast versus boneless roast.
What you may be requesting.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you want those ribs put into short ribs, or do you want that, what we call the plate, the sides of that animal, boned out and put into ground beef?
Right.
You've lost that bone weight, lowers your yield. So cutting style, animal type, beef type versus a dairy type, yields are different.
Now, is this going to have any effect on, I know a very hot topic, grass versus grain-fed, when you bring in an animal and their weight and their final production or fabrication?
We see a lot of variability in grass-fed beef. Typically, they tend to be lighter. They tend to have less marbling. They tend to have less fat, and they tend to have a darker color. But I've seen grass-fed in some of our retail markets that would be well into the choice grade.
Really?
Yeah. So there's lots of variability in grass-fed, and so
how is that? How does that
genetics.
happen?
And, you know, you get cattle that are more prone to marble, which increases the flavor and juiciness of that product, than you know, the grass versus grain is primarily a flavor deal. So cattle that are got the genetic ability to marble, they're going to be in a higher grade even though they're grass-fed. But we see a lot of variability. But if they're lighter, they've matured in their skeleton structure, but maybe not in their muscle development, that's going to lower their yields.
Right.
And I don't know, you've probably seen a little lower yield
Sure.
on grass-fed beef than you have the grain-fed. And part of it is more fat in the grain-fed. It gets deposited in between the muscles, and you get some of that fat put into the package. So it's one of them. It all depends.
It all depends on what the consumer would like, or what the farmer, or how they would like for it to be.
How it's cut, genetics, whatever. So just like us, everything's different.
Everything is different. And a lot of different things are happening here at Edgefield Prime. Kind of switch gears a little bit, because I want to make sure that we talk about what you've been doing over here, because we can see the construction.
Sure, yeah. So we applied for a grant back last fall, and we're one of 10 in the state that received this grant. And we're using this grant to expand the facility. We're out of freezer space, which is a good problem to have.
Yes.
So we're adding on a freezer and a bit of a storage area up front.
And that's for the community.
It is for the community, absolutely, and that's why our freezers are overfilling. Is because of the community, and we are happy that that is occurring.
Now, what here do we have right now in the freezer available for the community?
Okay.
If they want to come by, what do they expect to see?
So what we have is beef that Edgefield Farm grows, which is our beef. We also have pork that are butchered. Glenn Brock raises the pork.
Okay.
And lamb from Bobby Collier. All of those are here in the freezer for sale to the public.
Okay. And can they find a variety of cuts, or do they need to come with an open mind?
We have a variety of cuts from burgers to steaks to roast. And if we don't have it, we'll do our best to get it.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be exciting to have more space in here.
Absolutely.
And more options, more
Yes.
storage for that.
Yep.
That's very nice. Thank you for bringing that to our community. And also it's important to know that this is a USDA processing plant.
It is, yes. And that was one of the criteria we needed when we were looking to buy a processing plant. It had to be USDA inspected because we supply meats to restaurants and sell to individuals as well. But that service is also available for the public. If someone wants to process their beef for resale, it has to be under inspection, USDA inspection. We also offer custom processing, whereas you just want an animal for your own, for your home, it doesn't need to be USDA inspected.
Right. But it's really nice to have.
It is, and the price difference is 3 cents a pound extra for USDA,
Yeah.
so it's very minimal. If you want that service, then I would highly recommend you
Right.
paying the extra 3 cents a pound.
This is where we have our beef processed.
Yes.
And have for many years, and we've been a very satisfied customer. So I can personally recommend that we have very much benefited from this being in our community. We're very fortunate
Yeah,
because it could be quite a drive.
and we have customers from northern Alabama, southern Kentucky.
Yeah.
We have folks that drive 2 hours away, and you have it here in your back door.
Yes.
So it's certainly a plus.
Very good. Thank you. Well, Dr. Loveday, what other issues do you feel are important for the average customer to know or even be educated about your profession? Because I think there are many people, and I have to say I'm one of them, because I was not raised in agriculture. I did not realize there was a role of meat scientist. And so can you just speak a little bit on that level for people that just are not even aware about what that means?
That's, I guess, relatively new discipline in animal agriculture.
Because it's a degree.
Well, we're in UT, we're in the food science department.
Okay.
A lot of other universities, it's either animal science or food science. I was trained at Kansas State University, and I was in animal science there.
Okay.
But, you know, we got to work together. The animal scientists produce it, and the food scientists have to make it consumer usable in terms of further processing, food safety.
Quality.
Yeah, we got to work together in this. So it's a very fun. I've enjoyed it. I started out my career I wanted to be a 4-H livestock specialist.
Yeah.
And I went to school at K-State and got involved with the meat industry and stuck with it all this time.
Interesting.
So it is a discipline within the food or animal science areas, and it's a science. What happens during aging?
Right.
Why meat color? All of food safety, microbiology, the HACCP plan. All this is tied in to safe, wholesome meat products for our consumers.
Yeah. We should probably talk a little bit about the aging process. Because people, we throw that around in marketing. I know that I do that for our own. And I'm just telling people, you definitely want dry aged. And I have to say our customers just say, okay. But what exactly does that mean?
There's two types of aging, wet aging and dry aging.
Okay.
The whole aging process allows two effects: tenderness, improvement in tenderness, and I want to say a change in flavor.
Okay.
Some folks don't like dry aged, but it's a roasted, beefier type of flavor. And we particularly associate that with steaks.
Okay.
But you maximize the tenderness effect with about 7 to 10 days, maybe up to 14 days for most of our cuts.
Okay.
And so when we look at the commercial beef industry, if these animals coming out of the Midwest, time they're hung in the cooler, they're fabricated, put in a vacuum bag, put in a box, put in a distribution,
Right.
and they go from, say, Liberal, Kansas to a warehouse in Atlanta and then back to the local stores. They're aged in a bag for about 10 days. That's just normal handling.
Right.
That's dry. That's wet aging.
Aha.
Now the dry aging is one we associate with hanging the carcass for extended period of time, and you get that dry, roasted, beefy, roast beef flavor. So that's a little different. But with that extended aging, you also have decrease in yields because of surface dehydration. So if you're in the business, you got to balance how long you want to age to versus your yields. You've already talked about if a customer came in here and wanted my beef aged 30 days, then I don't need to be complaining about yields because they've got to trim quite a bit of that away because it's not good in ground beef.
Fascinating. So what is the average aging time?
I'd say on your beef, you're running close to 2 weeks.
Usually around 2 weeks seems to be standard. Lots of folks just want a week.
Okay.
And even with the restaurant industry that we serve, a week is max for those guys. They want to get it fresh, and of course they have the facility to age the primals a bit longer.
Okay.
So I'd say typically 2 weeks is not the average.
Okay.
But, 10 days, 7 days, you're probably going to get that tenderness effect you desire.
Now what about when people say, I want my ground beef processed or fabricated with a more lean tendency, or I want it in patties? Does this affect the taste quality?
Personally, yes. For me, the flavor for me is in that fat.
It is.
You have to have some fat in there. We typically do an 80-20 here, but we have lots of folks that wants a 90-10.
Okay.
And we can do that.
Okay.
That's not an issue at all.
And I learned last night, I definitely want to give a shout out to Jason Duggan, because I talked with him last night a little bit about his background in meat science, and he told me about even the color of the fat can be different, and I found that to be fascinating. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Mostly amount of forage that's in the diet.
Okay.
One of the things we typically see with grass-fed beef is a fat that's a little more yellow. And ones that are being marketed as grass-fed beef, again, variability. You'll see a little bit creamy color all the way up to a bright yellow. Lots of variability.
Okay.
And if you just check that out in the store, you'll see.
Look at it with your own eyes when you're shopping.
But that's one of the things, because of the chlorophyll and such, keratin, beta keratin comes out, deposited in the fat, and tends to be a little yellow.
And it's there.
Yep.
Now, so what if it's in a patty? Is there less fat in a patty, or it doesn't really matter?
It doesn't matter. If you want an 80-20, we're gonna do an 80-20 blend burger fat ratio, and we're gonna put that in a patty.
Okay.
If you want a 90-10, we're gonna do a 90-10.
In a patty.
Put it in a patty.
Does it taste different if we buy it in a round or in a patty?
No, it should be the same.
Should. Same beef.
Yeah.
Some of our customers just, sometimes like the easiness of the patty.
And we sell a lot of patties for that reason. It's quick, it's easy, it's simple. So.
And the thawing process, what do you recommend? Because we're
two safest ways to thaw is refrigerator or microwave.
Okay.
Hot water in the sink, leaving it on the countertop.
Danger.
Not a good idea.
You guys heard it. So you want to do it in the refrigerator. That means what he said earlier. You have to plan ahead, and then microwave.
If you need it real quick, microwave.
I know. Or you just wait.
Or you can cook it from frozen steak.
You can.
Yeah.
I do that with ground beef. Have you ever cooked a frozen steak?
Yes.
I've never done that. You can do it.
Takes a little bit longer.
On the grill. But you can do it. Temperatures of meat.
What about it? What
Flavor. What do you do? Does it matter? Some people,
internal
think
temperature.
Some people think it tastes better rare. Some people think it tastes better well done. Internal temperature.
We'll be political correct here and say it's personal choice.
Okay.
Personally, I do not cremate mine. So really, the higher the temperature internally, you drive off the moisture, you melt the fat, and so those things that give the flavor and juiciness to the product, you're compromising that.
Right. So now, from a cooking standpoint, because I do cook a little bit on my show, if I stab it with a meat temperature thermometer, aren't I just letting all that goodness run out to test my internal temperature?
We just want to do it once.
Okay.
I'm sure but a meat thermometer is the best way
To know.
To know.
Yes.
All of us have used color of the lean, or cut when you cut it open. Yeah, now you've exposed a big deal.
Ah,
And when you've cut it,
really?
and well, you've opened the surface. Now more heat gets in.
Okay.
It's just like cooking it again.
Sure.
So, meat thermometer, because pH of the muscle affect the color of the lean, and so it'll look different.
Interesting.
You go back to those food safety rules on ground beef, but you cook to 165. Don't use color as an indicator.
Right.
Or don't
Because you
let
can
the-
have the color of the
Right.
outside be perfectly done or slightly charred, depending on how you do
Right.
it, and then that it's still red on the inside.
And that's because of different pH of the muscle.
Okay. Well, we are
Always
certainly
use the thermometer.
always use a thermometer. You know, we're certainly very grateful for you visiting Dunlap and for you coming here and checking out. It was a really neat idea that you would
Absolutely.
ask him to come down.
Sure.
I think it just goes to show that you know, Edgefield Prime is really working for our community, working to bring us the best product that they possibly can and offer us more options. I mean, it's very challenging to find lamb or even some of these cuts locally,
It is.
or even in the big city. You're going to have a hard time finding that. Okay, we've had a question from the audience. A local farmer, bet you can guess who it is, wanted us to elaborate on the box weight, because we talked about earlier in the segment about the increase in size of our animals. And can you speak a little bit more about that?
We saw carcass weights on these cattle get larger, particularly back when they had the drought conditions several years ago in the Midwest. Texas, Oklahoma, Nebraska, up through there, we experienced a great drought, and they had to market females that would normally go in a breeding herd. So in order to keep the beef supply up, one of the things is they've taken cattle to heavier weights. But through genetics, they've been able to have cattle that are capable of going to a heavier weight without being excessively fat.
Yes.
What we see in the markets today.
I mean, that's what you see from the register operation, especially some things that we do at Burns Farms, is making sure that the genetics stay strong and stay for what our cow-calf operations are looking for. Well, we appreciate everything that you've done, Dr. Loveday being here, and that's why I was so excited about this opportunity to come and talk with you guys today, because I hope that you guys at home have gathered how valuable this is to our community. To have this in our back door is very important, not only to myself as a farmer, but to other farmers, you know, and just the general public and surrounding communities. So do take time to come over here, shop. There's going to be
Absolutely.
more available. I'm leaving here with some lamb from Bobby Collier, and just really have enjoyed talking with you guys today and even learning more. There's always more to learn, guys, and I hope this week you will take time to learn more and live well. Thank you.